Hello and welcome to the Marvelous Duo. I'm Matt.
And I'm Cate, and today we're joined by a guest host.
Yet again, we get our second guest. Today we have Jacob.
Hi!
Today we are talking about Thor: The Dark World, which was released in 2013, the same year as Iron Man 3.
Yes, and the fun thing about them being released the same year is that while Iron Man 3 has the Paramount logo, Disney had bought out Paramount for the distribution rights by then. It's just that their contract included Paramount being put on there for the Avengers and for Iron Man 3. But they are gone by Thor: The Dark World. And instead, we have a new Marvel Studios logo.
Yes, that blew my mind in the theater. And the woman that is now my wife did not understand it at all at the time.
It's so nice. It's such a wonderful opening.
It is, and I hate the new Marvel movie opening. I don't like that they replaced all the cool comic characters with the arguably still cool movie characters.
Yeah.
I get why they did it. You know, you want to make its own thing, and the MCU is very much its own thing. It is more inspired by the comics and not exactly... At this point, it really feels like they're not trying to directly remake stuff. So I get why they did it, but give me that old stuff, baby.
I love the sound of the pages flipping during that logo. There is something about it that is just homey.
Yes. And this movie starts off very hot, I would say. It's a lot like Ragnarok, where you're sort of just dropped into action. You have no real frame of reference until our man.
Yeah, I mean, like it opens with the history lesson of the
Dark Elves.
Dark Elves and
Yeah.
the Ether, and
An epic battle.
yeah, which we got kind of the same thing from the original Thor as well. So they kind of stuck with the Thor tropes.
Honestly, I will
bit.
say that this movie gave me super God of War vibes.
Huge.
Much more
Yeah.
than what I thought. And like when they were explaining the 9 realms, aligning for the convergence, and like telling the history of how Odin's father, King Bor, defeated the Dark Elves, all that stuff. I don't know, I got excited. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm about to play a video game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a great entrance. Fun fact about the actor playing Bor is actually one of the Irish gang leaders in the second season of the Netflix Daredevil show.
Wow.
So yeah, he's actually in more than one Marvel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of them's still canon.
Yeah, unfortunately one of them is not canon anymore. But yeah, I really like that actor. He also played Vincent Van Gogh in one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever made.
Nice.
But yeah, we get the history lesson about the Ether, and then we go to Loki's trial.
Loki's
not much of a
lecture.
trial. Yeah, where we see the different parenting styles of Odin and Frigga, where Odin is very much like, nope, no, you did wrong. Your mother's the only reason I'm not killing you. And Frigga is like, just don't make this worse, please. Like, she really seems like, she cares about the decisions that Loki makes.
Yes. And Renee Russo, we stand a queen, an ageless queen. She is putting in I think she is putting in more work than this role required, and as compared to her counterpart, Sir Anthony Hopkins, who is very vocal about this being an NAR role. And he'll read the script and just in big red pen write NAR on the top, which I don't believe this was discussed. And was this discussed in the last episode about Thor? I don't think it was.
I don't remember if it was brought up. I don't think we brought it up, but yeah.
Stands for no acting required.
Yep.
And, oh boy. I guess he's an old man who needed a new bathroom at this point, I think.
Yeah, probably. Like,
he's not on screen a lot in this movie.
Mm-mm.
He's not, no. Which is kind of weird, but like, it seems like the majority of the time that he is on screen during this movie, he is being extremely arrogant and like haughty and just angry.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of different from Odin of the first movie.
100%.
Like, it's crazy. But
Also, Frigga has a lot more lines in this movie than any other time that we've seen her.
yes.
So I think they did that to emphasize the fact that to show the relationship between Thor and Frigga and Loki and Frigga because of what happens later on in the movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot of work to establish that relationship because it was just in the first one it was just she's their mother, but in this one it is very much like this is the connection that they have with her.
Right.
And each other.
Yeah.
They're the at the end of the day, they were raised with her values more than Odin's, which is proven time and again throughout any movie they show up in.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that they bring up later is that, so like we see later that Frigga has that ability to, I guess like, not teleport, but cast illusion type stuff. And that's 100% what Loki does. And in that moment, you see that deeper connection of she probably taught him how to do that.
Yeah. We get to see Loki's trial, and then we go to find out what it is that Thor is doing, which is currently destroying rock people on Vanaheim.
Oh yeah!
That was Korg's brother.
And probably not his brother, but he is the same race of alien as Korg.
And way bigger than Korg.
So much bigger, yeah. It's kind of weird going back now, having seen Korg, like, rewatching this. That was a thought that I had when that guy showed up. I was like, he's so much bigger. It's crazy.
We also get to see Sif and the Warriors 3. They're restoring the peace in Vanaheim.
Yes.
And the actor that played the guy that has the rapier.
Fandro.
Yeah, that guy. It's a different actor.
Recast.
It is Zachary Levi. One of those. Which, I think I mentioned that in the first Thor episode, but it was because the actor that originally played him played Prince Charming in Once Upon a Time, and because that show got so popular, he did not have the time to play Fandral anymore.
What's this Marvel stuff? I've got syndicated television to be in.
We also see that Odin fully plans for Thor to take over the throne sooner rather than later, which was not the case in the first movie, even though Thor was ready. And Odin was like, but in this movie, the roles have kind of swapped. We also get another look at Odin's ravens when there's like a pan out over the Asgardians, like training and whatnot.
Yeah, one of the few times that we actually see the ravens with Odin. I don't remember how many other times we see it, but I do know that it is rare.
I feel like this movie was separate enough from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that it focused more on the Norse mythology side of things, that it that you almost, and we'll talk about this later when we like are rating the movie and whatnot, but as a standalone movie, I would have 100% been like, oh yeah, this is cool, like Norse mythology.
I was so into this movie from a Norse standpoint. Obviously, a lot of the it's not Norse mythology anymore. It's the Marvel cosmic mythology, but it's just so. I think this is the prototype for Guardians of the Galaxy. Honestly.
Oh yeah, this movie absolutely paved the way for Guardians of the Galaxy to be as popular as it was,
because it does not focus on any singular character. And the villain, who I think is rather good, is kind of in the same boat. His reasoning makes total sense. He's not equipped. He and his people are not equipped to live in this new universe. They want to reset everything so that they can take back what was taken from them through the creation of the universe itself. And
which I don't think we've mentioned up until this point. The big bad evil guy
Malakith.
is Malakith, who is like a dark elf man, but is played by Christopher Eccleston, who was the 9th Doctor in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Another Doctor Who connection. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They're hooed up in this.
Yeah, there's 2 at least.
It's because it was filmed in London and they only have 3 actors. They just have to cycle through them.
Yeah, everybody knows that England only has a select handful of actors, and one of them is Chris O'Dowd, who played in the IT Crowd and is playing Richard, Jane's date.
What a loser.
That poor man.
Dude.
Speaking about Jane, before that scene when they're in a date, Odin actually goes out of his way to talk to Thor and be like, hey, maybe you should forget about the human girl and focus on this woman that's in front of you, and like makes a reference to Lady Sif.
Yeah, he makes a lot of comments that like are him talking about Thor taking the throne, but it's also him alluding to Sif. He very much is pushing Thor towards her.
He very much wants immortal grandkids.
Yes.
or very, very long.
Functionally immortal grandkids.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that whole scene is really cool to me because it shows Thor slipping into a bit of a depression. Just like, oh, cool, everything I worked for in the last 2 movies I was in is just, like, not what I want at all, you know? And the one thing he does want, he can't, or one person he wants to be with, he really can't be. And I like that dynamic throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Jane, we do go and see that scene of her on that date, which goes wonderfully. It doesn't. That was sarcasm.
It was on the road to going wonderfully, and then Darcy nosed her way into there and ruined everything.
She did.
Darcy comes in to be not just the comic relief, but the every time I'm on screen I'm cracking a joke comic relief.
Yes. And the token this character is gonna do a cuss.
Yeah.
Character.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know. I think that was one of my issues with this movie, rewatching it, was that I didn't like what they did with Darcy's character a whole lot. She is funny still hilarious, but I don't think that needed to be the case every scene that she was in.
But she does bust up into this date, basically saying that the scientific equipment is going haywire. She has no idea where Dr. Eric Selvig is, which we find out later has gone a little cuckoo.
She does make the comment that Eric went banana balls, which is a wonderful phrase.
It's very 2012 when they filmed this movie.
Yes. So then they go to find the source of the crazy scientific equipment going haywire, which is an abandoned building that children are living in. What?
It's like some
Street
sort of
urchins.
warehouse, I don't know.
Oliver Twist is just off screen.
Right. And you see outside everything's a little topsy-turvy. That's why I wrote in my notes, because like there's a truck that's on its side, and then all the storage containers are all stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Some foreshadowing when a child lifts a truck with one finger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either there's something wrong with the gravity there, or that kid has super strength. And I think it's the gravity.
Right. But it's not just gravitational anomalies. It's that we find out, it's preluded to, that there are rifts in between worlds, which Jane gets sucked into.
Or is she called? Because she's hearing a noise. It's almost calling her name. And, you know, she's so desperate to be in the arms of Thor yet again. No, I'm kidding. No, she's in full scientist mode. She's investigating this anomaly. Something weird for what is happening occurs. It's such a cool sequence where she is pulled into another dimension that I guess the gods just forgot about.
I don't know. Like, they were like, yeah, we took the ether from the Dark Elves and we put it where no one would find it. And nothing has happened since, I guess.
We know this happens every 5,000 years, and that the ether is sentient. We're not going to put any safeguards up.
I mean, the Asgardians know that the ether is an Infinity Stone.
Right.
And they're not doing anything about it.
But but Thor later makes a comment that, oh, those are just stories that I heard growing up. So maybe because Odin's father didn't think to push the importance of, you know, when the convergence happened again, that it fell from fact into a myth.
Yeah, and like, Odin speaks about it as though he knows that it is fact, but I think also we see that, you know, with Odin being as haughty as he is, there's a good chance that also came from his father. And, and it was their haughtiness that they didn't really prepare for the next time. Because it was very much like Odin even says in one scene when he's explaining all this to Thor, he's like, all of the Dark Elves are gone. All 100%. Of them are dead. There is nothing to worry about, which is stupid. So stupid.
It does make sense because the entire Dark Elf fleet did nuke the surface of the planet they were on.
Yeah.
Svartalfheim.
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 That F right there, like, before the H, throws off so many people.
Nordic languages, man.
Yeah.
Can we also please talk about the fact that Jane was just doing her normal scientific thing when the Aether attached to her? I feel like in these instances, so many times, like, you're like, in horror movies, you're like screaming, you're like, no, don't do the thing. But she really didn't do anything. She didn't, like, stick her hand in there. She was just, like, peeking under there, and then it sensed her presence and then attached to her like a symbiote.
Yes.
She's gonna turn into Venom.
That scene honestly did remind me a lot of the Venom symbiote. Just the way it
Oh, yeah.
reached out and attached to her.
And then, unfortunately, Malakith and his ship reawakens when the Aether attaches to Jane.
We get a really awesome scene with a language that sounds very made up, where the Dark Elves are sort of discussing, like, okay, well, we're going to stick I don't know, some sort of flaming chrysalis inside of maybe our most capable warrior, what is very clearly going to be a suicide mission. And then they put this dope helmet on him.
Yeah.
The helmet almost immediate. Well, we'll get to it, but the costume design in this movie is awesome, and that is something I did want to bring up with that opening battle scene. Those are real people wearing real costumes, smacking each other with prop swords.
Oh yeah, that's not CG. They went all out on that, which is so nice.
Which I appreciate, because you can
Yes.
tell when effort's put into scenes like that versus when they're just completely CGI made.
I think it's a little weird. The one costume design thing that I think is weird is the Dark Elf's mask.
It's so cool.
It's creepy.
It's creepy, and it feels weird that they just always wear them. But Marvel likes their faceless armies.
They're a faceless army that's really cool. I think.
Yeah.
They're not like the Chitauri, which are like
The most boring faceless army I've ever seen.
literally faceless. At least these guys have cool V for Vendetta masks.
Yeah.
I will say that the Dark Elves in their mask situation reminded me a lot of God of War. Yeah, it reminded me of that.
Oh, 100%.
There is one plot hole that I did have a question about. So we know Loki's in his little dungeon, got a room to himself, so he's like in like a souped up dungeon. You know
It's
what
a
I mean?
nice room.
Yes.
Nobody else has chairs.
Right, nobody else gets chairs. Loki has 3 of them. But they're taking all these people prisoner, and they're bringing them back to Asgard. Why?
I had the same thought.
Why are
Me
they
too.
bringing them to
I
Asgard?
thought that scene was weird. It was very out of place. Because I guess you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Like, if they're gonna do something, at least like
At
we're
least
at
it's in
this
the heart of our
our power.
palates. Well, yeah, but we see how that can go wrong.
I was gonna say, it looks like the dungeons are literally right below the throne room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
And-
gosh, yes.
During the breakout scene, Loki's like, better take the stairs to the left. Just the stairs to the right just go up to the kitchens, but if you go to the left, to the throne room. It seems like a bad design.
It does.
It's very dumb. But in their defense, they don't know the Dark Elves are still around. They don't know these cursed with the K creatures still exist. The only thing that could have made it worse if there'd been a Z somewhere in there. Cursed.
Cursed.
Okay, come on.
So, of course, Mr. I shoved a crystal in my stomach, breaks it out and crushes it, and turns into this super cool-looking bad guy.
Yes.
Now, before that happens, though, we've got
Oh yeah.
Thor goes and gets Jane because we find out that every
yeah.
night he goes and visits Heimdall,
That's true.
who can see Jane and basically let him know what's going on. And Heimdall sees that Jane disappeared at one point while she was getting injected with the ether.
Yes.
And so Thor goes and gets
Infected.
her and takes her back to Asgard because the ether protects her from the police.
The British police.
The
bobbies.
Yeah, the bobbies, the coppers. So he takes her back to Asgard, which is I think,
Odin
why
loves.
they attack Asgard. Yeah, Odin is angry
Odin's like,
about
oh, you're bringing your girlfriend into my house without asking? Ugh.
it. Yeah, but then they figure out Odin sees the ether in her and goes and basically tells both of them about the Infinity Stones without saying that it's the Infinity Stones. But he does also make the comment that Malakith made the ether.
Yeah.
He formed the ether.
Yeah, I think
it's so. What is that? Is that the matter stone?
reality.
Reality gem stone? Sorry, that makes some sense. You're compressing the essence of nothing into a crystalline shape. Obviously, it doesn't hold that shape forever. It doesn't even hold it after this movie. It just becomes a little red rock, I guess.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very cool as well. It's limits the Infinity Stones in a way that I kind of like. But they totally disregard that by Phase 3.
Right. By the time they, do the... I mean, even by the time of Guardians of the Galaxy, when they explain the Infinity Stones, it's just their, singularities. I wonder if it is actually just what they meant was the Reality Stone existed, and Malakith is the one that turned it into the, living dust that it is.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense, I think. But yeah, after that is when we get the prison break.
Which is so good.
That is a really fun scene. Going back and watching that scene again now was really sad, though, because you realize that Loki helping led to his mother's death. That resentment of him being like, this is going to screw over Odin and Thor. Hey, take the stairs to the left, even if you're not letting me out, leads to one of the worst events of his life.
Right. Which, another thing is, why didn't he let Loki out? He literally let every other prisoner out and then bypassed Loki.
Loki didn't look violent enough, maybe.
Yeah, and he was just one guy.
Yeah, Algrim, the elf, probably didn't see any value in letting him out.
We also get to see that Frigga is very talented when it comes to fighting as well, because she is put in charge of protecting Jane. But when Algrim, is that what you said his name was?
Algrim, yeah.
When he finds Frigga, what was Malakith?
Yes, he
he's
confronts
the one.
Frigga, yeah.
After he uses his little blade ship to
Oh
crash
my
all the
gosh.
columns.
Oh, those ships!
I love that Thor the Dark World dares to answer the question of what if a sword was also a ship?
Yes! I have that in my notes, that the elven ships just look like blades, and they are so cool.
Because you can't hit them. Their little turret guns could do nothing against them.
Because they flip around and spin, and they're so thin that it's so hard to hit them, and
So
they just
cool.
slice
I also
through
love
stuff.
the scene where Heimdall doesn't see them, but he senses them, and he just runs and just yeets off of that bridge.
Yes.
And it's like, not today.
and then realizes that the large ship is also there, and just goes, oh crap. One thing that, one of the negative things that I noticed about the prison break is once the Dark Elves get in there and are just fighting on the ground with the Asgardians, the implosion grenades,
I hate them.
they don't have a large enough blast radius to really be useful as grenades. They take out one person.
I mean, they were countering Asgardians specifically, and they fight in grouped units that stay relatively close together so they can shield each other and all that stuff. That's what it's effective against. The Dark Elves very much feel like the Dark Eldar from Warhammer 40k, and this whole scene felt very Warhammer to me, where, they turn invisible, and their ships are very knife-like, and they have these awesome knives and plasma weapons that they fire off.
Oh yeah,
I want these grenades.
I was like, these grenades are so cool, but they seem really impractical as grenades. It does make sense though for them, because the first time that we see it gets one of the guys, but the rest of them in that group all jump away from it. So it makes sense that they would be used to just break up the groups. So yeah, I guess that does make sense, and I take back what I said earlier.
But also,
They're just really cool.
the worst way to die.
Oh, absolutely.
Besides being burned, well, I guess you're kind of being burned to death as your atoms are compressed into the space of one.
Yeah.
And then you just don't exist.
Yeah.
There's no explosion.
There's
it's
no
just
body.
There's no nothing.
You're just gone after being painfully sucked into a black hole.
You know what would be really fun would be if we found out that the implosion grenades are actually based off of PIM particles or something very similar, and those guys aren't actually dying, they're just being violently thrust into the
quantum realm.
Which is still a horrible way to die, but also maybe not die. People can survive in the quantum realm.
Anyways, so unfortunately Malakith tracks down, he's like a dog, like a bloodhound that can seek out the ether. He goes to the room where Jane is not actually there.
Right.
But she's what is that called?
An illusion?
A
illusion.
doppelganger
Yeah.
of sorts.
Yeah.
So Frigga's put up this fake version of Jane
And fights Malakith.
You witch.
and dies.
But
Gets stabbed.
she defeats Malakith.
100%.
She bests him in a one-on-one fight she is amazing.
She is incredible. And she's so good at illusion, she made Malakith think that his precious red juice was in the room when she was around the corner, I guess?
Yeah.
Or maybe he can only sense it in a radius and there's not a directional quality to it.
But, like, she's very good at what she does. The only reason she loses is because Algrim shows up.
Yeah.
And is very strong and, like, surprises her as well.
And after Algrim had previously destroyed the shield generator for the city.
Yeah, also a very strong man just blew that thing right up.
Yeah. Just punched it, got thrown around, and dusted himself off like a champion. Can't wait to how he bulks up in the off season. Can't wait to see that.
It's very heartbreaking, the scene where Frigga is stabbed and then dead, because we get the send away. We get them all, the boat send away. Which my question in those scenes, the pyre lighting on the boats, is always, what if you missed? What if one guy had the job of shooting a pyre for the queen and, sorry.
Well, in the culture that these myths originated in, that would happen, and it was just intensely embarrassing. Now, if you were like lighting the pyre of a king and you missed, you would be in trouble. If it was, I mean, like, you know, public humiliation, potential exile, or death. Fortunately, Odin laced his wife's corpse with explosive powder, I guess.
Apparently.
No. Yeah, that entire scene from her getting stabbed, where they just cut the sound, and they have, like, light music. The only dialogue that you hear is Thor, like, screaming.
Like he just stubbed his toe.
Yeah, like as he attempts to stop Malakith and like get revenge.
Blast the heck out of the dude's face.
Yes. But like all of the sound is just muted all the way through to the funeral, which is just so beautifully done. That scene, oh my god, that was so good.
This was a scene I probably should not have been driving during. Usually dad stuff in movies really gets to me, but it's like, oh cool, mom stuff also really gets to me good. And then seeing Loki's reaction to the news is just like, it's so intense.
Yeah.
And it just works so well.
Before we get to that scene where they do tell Loki what's happened, we get a shot of Darcy freaking out and being like, where is Jane disappeared? To Asgard with Thor. Dr. Eric isn't picking up his cell phone, and my intern is sitting on the couch watching TV. And then we find out that Dr. Eric Selvig was at Stonehenge.
He was at Stonehenge?
Yes. Naked, butt naked, trying to put up a little thing,
gravity spikes.
Things, in the ground. And he got sent to an insane asylum or a mental health hospital.
Yeah.
Straight out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Some mental institution where Stan Lee is also hanging out and freely handing out his shoe.
Yes, for a demonstration about how the realms work during the convergence. So that's our Stan Lee cameo of the movie.
Yeah. And then immediately wanting that shoe back.
And it was I think it's one of his better cameos. I don't usually like his cameos. I think it's cool, you know, pay respect to the face of Marvel. But I also feel it's like takes away from like all the stuff he did that was kind of crappy.
Yeah.
Which I feel is a story for another episode.
Yeah. Also, some of them feel shoehorned in.
Yes.
The Avengers one was probably the most shoehorned Stan Lee cameo. This one is simple. It works.
I didn't see it coming.
It's funny. Yeah, like it's just like, can I have my shoe back? And you're like, oh hey, all right, that was good. That's one of the, I don't know. It's a good one. I won't say it's one of the better ones, but it is a good one.
And you get some exposition. You learn what's happening
and
why Selvig is running around naked at ancient druidic monuments.
Yeah.
And also why Jane was able to be sucked into a different dimension. Is because there's random portals opening up in between the realms.
But only in merry old England.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't
only
have
in
it worldwide, because then the Avengers will show up.
Right.
And we can't have that happen in a solo movie yet.
Apparently.
But yeah, then we go back to Asgard, where Thor has a plan that Odin does not want to do, because Odin is just being extremely arrogant. Like, we've defeated them before, we'll do it again. It's no problem, despite the fact that we have no defenses at all. It's still not a problem. We're still going to do it.
And his wife, a genius of military and tactical strategy, is gone. She's very important in the mythology to the defense of Asgard.
Yeah, and I think maybe what they were going for is that, like, he is grieving, and so maybe he's not thinking straight, but, like, they don't really show that too well.
This is Sir Anthony Hopkins phoning it in.
yeah, like, it just comes across as Odin just being extremely arrogant.
Yeah.
And not caring about his people.
But this next sequence between Thor and Loki, pretty much for the better part of the rest of the movie, is my favorite part about this movie. Like, this arc between the two of them. So, like, Thor does go and breaks Loki out, but before he breaks him out, he explains to him the plan. And the scene where Thor is talking to him about their mother dying and then offering to take him with him, he makes the comment, "No more illusions," and then Loki drops the facade, and you just see the deranged mess that he is, and his room goes from being pristine and him looking pristine and walking around all haughty to him literally sitting on the floor barefooted. I'm assuming food that he's rubbed all over the walls, and like
It looks like scratch marks on the wall.
Yeah.
Let's call it food.
Yeah, there's no telling. I think it was really great that they had that scene where Thor finally sees through one of Loki's illusions. I think, like, that was one of the best things that they could have done to show that Thor is growing as a character.
Yeah.
I love that.
It showed that as far as their mother is concerned, Thor knows his brother.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And he knew there was no way he was keeping it together.
Yeah. And also, he needed Loki because now that the Bifrost had been closed, there was no way out of Asgard, except he knew that Loki had a secret way out of Asgard. So that was like the whole main reason why he went to Loki. Not just because he had just lost his mother and he knew that Loki would want revenge also. I feel like the main reason was because Loki knew that secret way.
Yeah. And so, you know, he gets Loki out, and we get a Chris Evans cameo.
Yes.
It's so good.
It's so funny. So hilarious. Where they're just walking, like, between pillars, and each pillar just is a cut to him doing some different illusion. He turns Thor into Sif at one point. He turns himself into an Asgardian guard, which is actually more important than you think when it happens. And then he turns into Captain America and wants to have a rousing discussion about freedom and the American way.
God bless him.
Yo,
So-
that is
Chris
so great.
Evans putting in good work.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like Chris Evans in that scene, while he was there, because it wasn't his movie, like it wasn't a Captain America movie, I feel like he had major golden retriever energy. He was like, I'm just happy to be here.
Yes. Oh, you mean I don't have to stick to the script? And I love how he called out how dumb the Avengers costume was.
Yeah. Then we have this very elaborate escape plan that
Yes.
Sif and the Warriors too, because Hogan stayed on his homeworld.
Yeah, Hogan stayed on Vanaheim and
He
was
retired on his way to the home planet.
Not, yeah,
Right.
He was not really in this movie except in like 2 scenes.
Oh, and they kidnap Jane because Jane has been put under house arrest.
Yes.
So he kidnaps Loki, or he breaks out Loki, has to go kidnap Jane, and then the elaborate escape.
Yeah, which includes Heimdall yet again following the rules to bend the rules. He's very good at that.
He follows the rules to literally do nothing except, I guess, have Odin on the opposite end of the
Yes.
planet.
Yes.
Why
Or-
have you called me here? That I'm a traitor. Here, take my sword.
He gets Odin away from the palace
That's right.
so that they can go through without having to worry about him getting in the way. Because they don't want to fight Odin.
No,
Bad idea.
You don't want to fight Odin, you
Such
will
a bad
lose.
idea. Exactly. So they go and do that.
Which-
Sif goes and gets...
All of the Asgardian soldiers that they fight during this escape, none of them are deadly blows. They just do them to knock them out. They don't want
Exactly.
to kill anybody.
Right. That's like they are doing this for Asgard. They don't want to kill Asgardians.
Right.
They're trying to save Asgardians. We get the wonderful scene where Loki and Jane meet for the first time.
And she smacks him.
She punches him.
Oh. And he goes, I like her.
Yes.
Also, I felt the same way that you felt about Darcy being very one-linery every time she was on on the screen. I felt like Loki was also, for the better part of the show, every time he was on screen, he either had a smart comment to make or was very quippy. And I was like, you're being very unnecessarily quippy. Like, it would happen every time.
Yeah, and that is something I was like, I don't feel like this matches with the movie we are watching at all.
Right. So then we have, throughout this escape plan, that Thor has accounted for Loki not knowing the plan.
Yes.
By yeeting him out of a ship.
Yes. The sword ship!
Yeah, they steal the sword ship. Loki complains the whole time about Thor's flying and how conspicuous they are, and Thor just pushes him out of it because the plan was not to actually take that ship. It was to use that as a diversion.
That's right.
Diversion, which is just...
It's good.
It's so good. It was so unexpected in theaters that everybody in the theaters like, ah! Just like, I could not believe that had just happened. It's so good. And then we get Zachary Levi, is that who it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get him Robin Hooding around, which is very fun. It stinks we'll never see him in a Marvel movie again. And it's like what are the old Robin Hood movies?
Yeah, it was very much like that like swinging from a chandelier kind of thing.
Yes. Or in this case, a boat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Swinging from a boat to another boat.
And then they give Loki control of said boat, and then he squeezes it through a very tiny hole, and Loki makes the comment that if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yes, I love that line.
It's very reminiscent of the Willy Wonka magic tunnel scene. The music just in a crescendo, lights start popping up, Loki with this giant Cheshire cat grin, just incredible.
Yes. Then we also get Darcy and her intern Ian breaking Selvig out, and there's a great line as they are leaving the mental institution. They see like they're talking about the convergence and what it's going to make happen, and they see like a group of birds go through one of those portals and then pop up like right underneath them, and Selvig makes a comment about there's nothing more reassuring than knowing the world is crazier than you are, and then he throws away all of the meds that he had been taking.
A comical amount of medication.
He also
Yes.
makes a comment earlier about having a god inside of his brain.
Holy cow, yes.
Yeah, that was a good line. He's like, I've had a god inside my brain, and he tells Ian, the intern, that, and the guy's face is just like, what?
Yes. And then we're back to what is the battlefield name?
Svartalfheim.
That place. We're back to that place. And we get a line between Thor and Loki because they're kind of like reminiscing on their way to this place. Jane's like passed out in the front of this boat, and her eyes have gone completely black except for the irises that look like the elves, the dark elves, which is weird. But we get a conversation between the two of them talking about their mother because they start arguing, and Thor said, Mother wouldn't want us to fight. And then you get this moment where they're just kind of staring at each other, and you can see on Thor's face when he says the line, I wish I could trust you.
Oh.
Because it breaks your heart. Because they could be so great as brothers and as partners if Loki didn't have alternative motives. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I swear every scene in this movie between Thor and Loki is so well written and so well acted.
Yes. It's awesome, and honestly, I don't think of this as a Thor movie. I think of this, it's an ensemble. It truly is. It's like Asgard is a character in the movie in that we have and I hate to say something so cliche, but you just get so much with the Asgardian people that you don't get honestly, you don't get it in the first Thor movie, you don't get it in the third one.
Yeah, and that is something that is really, really good about this movie. Because it's yeah, you're right, it's not just a Thor movie, it's a Thor and Loki and Jane and
Darcy and Selvig and Thor,
and
Odin
and Sif and Frigga and
Yeah.
Heimdall gets to do something for once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
So they brought Jane to this place so that they can get
Malakith.
Yes, so they can get Malakith.
I'm Malakith. That's how he talks.
Yeah, that is how he talks.
You know, going back and watching, I was pretty sure that he did not say a single word in English, But there is one, it's actually this scene, that he says like one sentence in English and the rest of the time he speaks in Elvish, which I think is really cool. It's one of the few times that you see
an alien being an alien.
An alien being an alien, yeah. Instead of them just all speaking English so that we can understand. No, like they speak Elvish this entire movie.
Is it when he talks to Thor and he tells him to look at him?
It's when he responds to Loki. When Loki betrays Thor and like hands over Jane, which is the only time Loki ever calls himself Loki of Jotunheim in the entire series.
He hates his family. He hates the Frost Giants.
He does, but he cannot say he's Loki of Asgard in this moment. He can't be of Asgard. It's
not real.
And so when he hands over Jane, I don't remember what Malakith says, but he responds to him in English. It's the only line he says in English.
Also, in this upcoming fight scene, Loki kicks Thor down a mountain after his betrayal.
After cutting his hand off.
Yeah, cuts his hand off. That whole situation.
That is that's one of the most violent things we've seen in a Marvel movie.
Right.
I was shocked in theaters.
Other than the eyeball thing.
Yeah. Oh well, but you don't see you don't see the remains of that eyeball.
That's true.
Now, fun fact about the hand getting chopped off. This is phase 2. I may bring this up in the Iron Man 3 episode. I don't know. That's
you'll
in the
know.
future.
If you're listening to this, you'll know.
Yeah. Because Disney had just obtained Marvel, in phase 2, every single movie has at least one person having an arm or a hand chopped off as an homage to episode 5 of Star Wars, because it was the second Star Wars movie.
That's funny.
Yeah. So in this one, it is Thor getting his hand chopped off by Loki. That is a direct homage to Star Wars.
Oh no.
That's crazy.
But we find out that Loki actually didn't betray Thor. It was planned, and the hand chopping off was an illusion. And we see that there are several times where Loki protects Jane. He saves her like twice.
Yeah.
And then Thor saves Loki. And it's a lot of back and forth, everyone saving each other. And they work so well as a team. I wish Loki was good. It hurts my heart.
Yeah, they work really well as a team, and like their plan goes off almost perfectly.
Yeah, until Loki stabs Algrim. Loki stabs him, and he just is like, "Me too, bud," and stabs Loki with the sword that is in his own chest.
Yeah.
Well, what we have totally glossed over is Thor should have listened to his daddy. You can't destroy an Infinity Stone with something that isn't another Infinity Stone.
That is true.
Yeah, the whole plan was to destroy it, and that does not work, and instead Malakith absorbs it and goes to leave, and so that's where this fight scene comes from, is literally just them fighting Algrim and the other.
There's a few shock troopers left that Loki just kind of dispatches like they're nothing.
Yeah.
And yes, like you were saying, Cate, it is just like, dang, these guys really did spend hundreds or thousands of years growing up and fighting and living, and they know each other, and that's what makes what happens next just that much worse.
Yeah, because Loki then dies.
For real. He's definitely dead.
He sacrifices himself in order to activate the implosion grenade on Algrim, which is so much more visual than the other implosion grenade deaths that we see earlier on.
Isn't the idea that the cursed are essentially unstoppable?
Yeah, Malakith basically says a comment about, it creating like a darkness inside of him that will eventually consume him, but he's unstoppable until it does. So they don't really explain that, but it is really kind of interesting.
They say in the beginning when they're talking about the war, the original war, that the cursed used part of the Aether, the stones imbued with the Aether, that so every one of the cursed is a suicide mission. Yeah. If you become one of the cursed, you go and die.
Right.
One way or another. But then also Loki's death scene is so good because you can see, I don't know if it's special effects or if they actually use like makeup to also help, but as he's talking to Thor, you can see him getting more and more washed out and his lips turning blue, and then finally he's just like, all right, conked out.
Yeah. Very, very emotional, especially for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Who then goes on and continues to do what he has to do.
And then Thor talking to Loki, and Thor saying, I'll tell Father what you've done, and Loki's last words being, I didn't do it for him.
Yes.
You're like, no.
It's just like, yeah, defiant till the end. Tears pouring down my eyes,
right.
out of my eyes as I deliver dog food to a trailer park.
Yes. But yeah, so Thor and Jane are stuck on Svartalfheim. They eventually find a way out because
The convergence is happening.
Richard calls her and she has service on Svartalfheim in a cave with a box of scraps.
No.
Not a box, but some scraps.
A pile of scraps, at least.
Scraps.
A bunch of bricks, a can, some car keys.
Yeah, the car keys, thankfully. So they are able to find the rift that they had found earlier, been playing with. And yeah, they make it back. The car has been graffitied over, but it is still running.
To show that time has passed.
Wow.
I said it was graffitied, not that it was wearing glasses.
Oh, right.
0 out of 4 found that interesting.
Then they go back to Jane's apartment where Dr. Eric is not wearing pants.
Helps him think.
It helps him think, yes.
Worst part of my day is when I have to put pants on.
Yeah, I understand the not wanting to wear pants kind of thing. And Thor puts Mjolnir on the goat rack.
It's so funny.
Which I'm pretty sure was suggested by Chris Hemsworth, if I remember correctly. I know I've read that somewhere. I don't know for sure if it's
The
true.
coat rack is worthy.
Well, no, because if you put the hammer in an elevator and send it up, elevator goes up. Elevator's not worthy.
Is the elevator wielding it? No, it's just carrying it.
Right. The coat rack's just carrying.
Just holding
it.
Yeah.
Space magic.
Yeah.
Then we get the scene where we find out that Loki's not actually dead because he goes back to Asgard as that same guard that he turned into.
That's true, but I had forgotten about that scene, and watching it I was like, what is this guard's deal? Why is he just swimming? Why is he swimming in a river ham? He's chewing scenery like there's no tomorrow. And I was just like, what? And then it just cuts, and then obviously, to skip forward a little bit, it was Loki the whole time. But yes, I didn't even catch that the first or second time that I watched this movie.
It's one of the more subtle reveals that they have. Like if you miss this 2 seconds, then you don't realize what's going on.
Yeah, when I first watched this movie, I remember having the thought, how does this guard know that Loki's dead? He was not there. He was not.
Oh, yes. Oh, Allfather, we definitely sent one of our severely depleted units to a planet that technically doesn't exist.
That's a little weird one. But then we get Thor is able to, with the help of the humans who are using the gravity spikes to just throw dark elves into different areas of London.
Because it was happening in Greenwich. The convergence was happening.
They figure out it's in Greenwich, and so they go there and are ready, sort of, but not
Great
quite.
scene.
Just that entire ending scene, it's so cool because it's not just a fight scene.
The last bit, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Because you got, the jet fighters end up going through a portal to Vanaheim. The
creature from Jotunheim.
Because Malakith and Thor end up going to Jotunheim. A creature comes back with them. Ian figures out that the gravity messing up is going to help him stop these dark elves that are chasing him and Darcy.
Yes.
And he smashes them with a car.
Which is so cool.
Yeah. And then we get the very fun scene of Jane using a gravity spike to send dark elves away, who are then replaced by Darcy and Ian, who are making out
because they're gonna die. It's the apocalypse. Might as well get some in.
Well, I think a lot of it is just Ian saved Darcy, and she's like, "You saved me," but
you saved me.
Let's do this. That makes sense. But it's like when they appear, the name game scene of just Jane, Eric, Ian, Darcy, Mia Mia.
That the delivery of Mjolnir made me crash my car.
Now, that I think is the peak of Darcy's comedy in this movie.
If they were gonna cut everything else and just include that, that'd be okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, before we get to the fighty scene, when they're walking through the big building next to the courtyard where the final boss goes down, they're walking. Jane has on these bright red rain boots, and they're squeaking really bad, and someone's like,
so
shh,
funny.
and she's like,
the apocalypse is happening. You have to leave.
Also, one of the guys, Thor's fighting outside, and they're like, what are you still doing here? Like, what's happening? And there's this guy that turns around and he goes, Thor's outside. That's Thor outside. He's in The Witcher. That guy, that actor, is one of the magicians in The Witcher.
Wow.
Yes, he is the one that has a fling with Yennefer early on in
wow.
season 1.
That jerk.
Matthew paused it and he was like, that's the guy from The Witcher. And I was
I
like,
hate that guy.
I was like, London, they only have 3 actors.
Yeah, exactly. One thing about this fight I wanted to say is that I love Thor's backhand hammer throws.
Ooh,
they look
baby, he's
so cool.
Good.
The full spin and just release with the cape flowing behind him.
Also, the fact that the way that he defeats Malakith is by just stabbing him with those little spiky things, and then Jane just sending him to different dimensions.
Sending, like, his arms to different dimensions, and then he just...
Oh, that was so cool. Well, sending them all to Svartalfheim,
Yeah.
which I'm like, I guess you never know if he could, like, regenerate from that arm. Dark Elves haven't been around for a long time. And we get the playtime with portals segment of the fight is so fun, and seeing Mjolnir like a confused dog, just like
yes,
just like,
and Thor ending up in the London Underground and like having to get on a subway, and the girl that's like he's like, how do I get to Greenwich? And she's just like, take this train 3 stops, and then she falls on him accidentally.
So funny.
His face, he was like,
It very much felt like something that they liked the reaction, and they knew that Natalie Portman was not coming back for 10 more years to be in the MCU. So, like, okay, we'll let Thor play the field a little bit, I guess.
After that scene, though, when Thor has righted the world... Also, Thor defeated an Infinity Stone. Can we tell? Like, he defeated Malakith, but also he took on an Infinity Stone and won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's very strong.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
But after that, we get the scene where Thor returns. He leads Jane. Oh, continue.
We are forgetting one very important thing. I meant to bring it up earlier. Not only are the ships swords, and the swords are also ships, these elves are rolling coal, which does not fit, like billowing black smoke just pouring out of their ships all the time, but they're also invisible. That makes no sense. And, of course, our favorite character, Annoying Mom, the ship, is the actual thing that kills Malakith.
Yes.
True.
He died, and it's cool. He dies the way he doomed his race.
Yeah.
To destruction, which I thought was really cool.
It is very apropos.
And it's very much a, like, camera zoom in, mother! kind of an ending.
Yes. Very, very appropriate. True. But yeah, then we get the aftermath of Thor going to talk to Odin and just having a conversation about like how he does not want to be king. He wants to protect the realms, but he can't do it from a throne.
He says that he would rather be a good man than a great king.
Mm-hmm.
Which is wonderful line.
And the line that Odin throws out of I have one son that wanted it too much and one who won't take it now.
The crazy thing about this scene is that it is Loki, but it is Loki showing at least some of the wisdom of Odin, which is, I think that shows the development that Loki has gone through as well.
If Loki would have been treated like he was going to take the throne the way that Thor was from birth, Loki would have been a phenomenal king of Asgard if his mischievous side hadn't gotten the best of him.
Yeah, he had no avenue for it.
Right.
And we get a very, very cheeky looking Tom Hiddleston
sitting on the throne.
Yes.
And he says, I'm going to milk this for as long as I can.
Oh, yeah. After Thor leaves, we see that it is Loki, the big reveal that people didn't miss.
I think not, brother. That's exactly how he sounds.
That chuckle. If he had chuckled like Skeletor, it would have been like just the cherry on top. But yeah, then we get the
bomb credits.
The mid-credit scene.
The portraits I really love. It's always fun. He's seeing who gets the ands, withs, and is at the end.
True. Yeah, and those credits, the like painting style, I had to leave for work right as like we were doing this. So I was like getting ready and trying to watch it because the art during that first section of credits is so cool.
Yeah.
That's like sit and watch those credits. They're very good.
The music was very good in this movie. We'll get into that in a minute, I imagine.
No, it's fine. All we have left to discuss is the mid-credit scene and the after-credit scene, and then we'll rate it.
There's an after credit scene?
Yeah, there's two.
Whoops.
Yeah, if you watched it on Disney Plus, you wouldn't have realized it because they went to the small screen and like suggesting something else
Probably it.
during the credits because I guess they didn't realize there was another after credit scene.
But the mid-credit scene was Sif and the Warriors 2 again. Hogan still wasn't with.
I think it was only Sif and
Big Man.
Yeah.
The giant. Dwarf.
Volstagg.
Yes.
Okay, so Sif and Volstagg go to the Collector and drop off the Aether, which we know is the Reality Stone, with him.
And they straight up talk about the fact that it is an Infinity Stone.
It's not wise to keep two Infinity Stones together.
And they talk about the fact that the Tesseract is an Infinity Stone, which was not a thing during the Avengers.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they didn't know what they were doing with that. So the fact that they dropped it in a mid-credit scene, you're like, okay, wow.
But the Collector makes a comment when he's holding the Reality Stone. He says, 1 down, 5 to go.
Yeah, we get kind of an implication that the Collector is going to do more to attempt to get the stones.
He is set up, I was like, oh my gosh, the Collector, that's crazy. He's got to show up in Guardians of the Galaxy as the villain, right?
Right, yeah, like they really set him up as being the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's really just a bad guy who, like, owns sentient beings as objects.
He collects them. And it's cool because this scene actually reveals his name. Like, his name is not the Collector. It is Tannelir Tivon.
Great name.
Oh, I wrote that down.
Which made me wonder, what is the Grand Master's real name? Because they're brothers.
Yeah.
And, you didn't know that.
You didn't
No!
know? Whoa!
Yeah,
Oh,
the Grand Master
it makes
and the Collector are
Ragnarok so
brothers.
much more fun.
Yeah.
You realize there are two people.
They
two
look the same.
Yes.
That makes so much
They have the
sense.
same markings and everything.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But it made me wonder what the Grand Master's real name is.
And then we get the after credit scene.
Yes, the after credit scene is Jane noticing her equipment, seeing that, there's something about to happen, goes outside to her balcony, and Thor shows up from the Bifrost and kisses her, which is not actually...
Natalie Portman?
Yeah.
It's his wife.
It is Chris Hemsworth's wife. And then there is a quick scene of the creature from Jotunheim still at that warehouse chasing birds and messing up the London ecosystem.
Yeah, does anyone ever talk about that?
I don't think so.
Does S.H.I.E.L.D. get a hold of this thing?
Yes, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the episode that came out immediately after this movie, they clean it up.
Which means it didn't happen.
Which means it didn't happen because apparently Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer canon.
Kevin Feige, thank you for ruining fandom.
Kevin Feige, you have just opened yourself up to have a random beast from Jotunheim in London. At some point later on, it'll never get taken care of. But...
So, anything else before we rate this movie?
I don't think so, because all of my remaining points kind of factor into my rating of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how are we doing this again? As a movie?
As a movie in general, and then as a superhero movie.
Okay. So, as a movie in general, what would we all rate this movie?
Jacob, since you were the one that originally was on this episode to defend this movie, what are you going to toss on there?
So I walked out of the theater and was texting the boys about it and was just totally over the moon. The reaction I got was, dude, you're out of your mind. That's the worst Marvel movie we've seen. This is a universe where Iron Man 2 exists and The Incredible Hulk, which aren't even that bad. I don't know.
Those two have their place within the MCU.
Sure, one of them does.
Maybe it's not a good place. Yeah.
But I guess I'll rate this as a standalone movie. I think it's a standalone movie. I give this a gentleman's 6. Because it's like, oh, it's a hot day, I'm going to go in and get some popcorn, have my Dr. Pepper, enjoy the air conditioning, and just like, oh, wow, enjoy the costume work. The fight choreography is really good. It really felt to me kind of like an older 70s movie where it's very much like, here's an interesting scenario, and here are people in cool costumes, and they're fighting, and isn't that fun, folks? So, yeah, 6 out of 10 as a movie. I think you could watch this movie without having seen the other Thor movie or Avengers.
Yeah, I think so.
They do a good job of catching you up, and most people know who Thor and Loki are. Like, it's fairly common in pop culture to know that myth. It's a very popular myth. As a Marvel movie, it's hard to put a number to it.
Well, we don't really do it like we don't do it as a Marvel movie, but like as a superhero.
As a superhero movie,
Yeah, like
I do think it is one of the better ones. Which
I need a numerical value.
it's so difficult. It's so difficult to put a number to it, and it makes sense because I feel like you could give this a 2 and it'd be justified. You could give it a 9.9 and it'd be justified. I think this is like an 8.75 as a superhero movie. I think it is head and shoulders above pretty much all of Phase 2 except for Guardians of the Galaxy and I mean, I kind of it's in the top 3 best Phase 2 Marvel movies. I like it a whole lot more than most of the Spider-Mans that aren't Sam Raimi. I like it a lot more than some of the Phase 1 stuff. I like it more than Thor 1. And I love Thor 1.
Yeah.
I think Thor 1 might hold up better as a movie than anyway. Yeah, that's my ranking. 6 out of 10. Gentleman 6 as a movie, 8.75 as a superhero movie.
Okay.
All right, Matt, what do you think?
So going into this, I was one of those boys originally when it came out. I was one of the ones that was like, I don't know what you're talking about. This one was bad, and I have badmouthed this movie for years, and I feel so bad because I think I only watched it once in theaters. So 8 years ago, and going back and rewatching it now, I realized how wrong I was. So my advice to anyone listening is, if you didn't like this movie originally, go watch it again.
Please
go watch it again.
Please.
It is so much better than I remembered. I mean, it's got problems. Every movie does. Mm-hmm. But it's better than I remember. I still think like there are a lot of movies in the MCU that are better than it. As a movie in general, not the development, but the relationship between Thor and Loki is one of the key parts of this movie, and it is done so well that it just bumps up that rating. I think based off of my memories, it would have been somewhere around like a 2 or a 3 as a movie in general. Going back and watching it again, I think I agree with the 6. I might even go like a 6.5 or a 7.
Whoa.
I think I'm gonna have to average out at a 6.5 as a movie in general, because it's a lot better than I remember it being. And then as a superhero movie, doing a good superhero sequel is hard.
Yes.
The fact that they pulled one off, that the argument could be made, it is better than the original, which I think you're right. As a movie in general,
Yes.
I think the first Thor is better, partly because like it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. Like,
yes,
he's Shakespearean.
It is much more stage play.
Yes, and it's so well done. It's well executed as a movie in general, but as a superhero movie, I think this one is better than the original. So I'm gonna say as a superhero movie for this one, 7.8.
Nice.
As a superhero movie, partly because it is a sequel that is extremely well executed.
Yeah.
And it develops the superhero even more, as well as developing his relationships in the world.
Honestly, just as a movie, this movie made me feel a lot of things. It was good. It made me very emotional. Frigga's death scene was very emotional. Loki's death scene was very emotional. I'm gonna give it an 8 for just a movie.
Yeah.
And I don't have any like fun facts or reasons why, other than like Tom Hiddleston is beautiful and it just made me feel things. And that will be the same way for Guardians of the Galaxy with Chris Pratt. But as a superhero movie, I don't know, I was really entertained. The aspect of like Norse mythology it was very reminiscent in my mind to God of War, and I really loved the God of War game. So I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Nice.
All right.
Which is one of our higher ratings, even out of the Phase 1 movies that we've done.
Which is blowing my freaking mind right now.
Because you came in here.
Rewatching this movie, we expected to go into this as Jacob is going to defend this movie while we try to tear it apart.
This was going to be me as Thor, Matt as Captain America. He's demanding I put the hammer down about Thor 2. And I was prepping to do that.
That is not at all what this was, because like I rewatched that movie and I messaged Jacob and was like, I'm sorry, you were right.
The first time in my life I think I've ever heard those words.
But yeah, that really changed the dynamic of what this ended up being. But this
was a good movie.
It was, yeah.
It's so good, y'all. Please go watch.
Yeah.
And just watch movies that do fun, goofy stuff.
Watch movies that you enjoy.
Yes.
Like, watch movies that make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch it. If you didn't watch it before listening, go watch it now.
And we just wanted to give a quick thank you to Jacob for being on our
thank you.
podcast.
Wow.
Our second guest person ever.
Wait, second guest.
Yeah, Wes was the first.
Wes was our first guest ever.
Ooh.
Do you not listen to our podcast?
Ooh, only the time you mentioned I would be on it. But now I'm angry.
Well, thanks so much for being here. And
Yeah.
thanks for loving this movie so much and getting us hyped for it.
Oh, I'm so glad that the hype paid off.
Good.
And I hope it pays off for the listeners.
Yes.
I hope so.
I really hope people are watching these along with the episodes. I feel like that would be a really fun thing to do.
So a special thanks to Mikhael Bureau for the use of his music for our theme song. You can find the link to his YouTube in the episode description.
Make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter for updates. That's where we'll update about future episodes, and if we're taking a break or if anything's going to be late, we'll always update on there. Our next episode will be Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that is one that I remember liking.
Ooh, man, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's another one I've only seen a couple of times, I think. So
I've only watched it once, so
yeah,
this will be
gonna be fun.
What if we say it all at the same time, but
no.
at different
octaves,
ranges?
so that we harmonize. I'm just kidding.
Have a
No.
Oh, okay.
Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you, and we will catch you in the next episode. Have a marvelous day. Bye.
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 We're not harmonizing. Stop it.